It is Thursday, August 17th, 5:02 p.m. Welcome to the City Commission Workshop of the City of Lake Helen. We have 4 commissioners. We're absent Rick Bassett, who could not attend this evening. We have by phone Zach Calico, City Finance Director and City Administrator, and quite a few residents here. Thank you all for being here. It's a relatively simple agenda. We start with the ceremonial matters. If we could rise for prayer and pledge. I had a preacher lined up, but didn't work out. He got stove up. So anyway, let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for this evening. Thank you for a beautiful day. The nourishing rain, help us to enjoy the lives you've given us. Help this meeting to be profitable for the city and move us forward. And just thank you for all your blessings. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So this is our second budget presentation of the upcoming year's budget. Mr. City Administrator, do you want to?
No, I'm ready.
And you want to introduce it?
I will. As you indicated, this is the second meeting in the second iteration of the budget. If you don't in the audience have kind of an outline that's prepared by the finance director who has COVID, so he is not with us physically, but he's with us on the telephone. And Zach intends to go through the particular outline. There will be questions he will need to get from the commission for further direction, and he will suggest other additions, subtractions from the budget, so that we traditionally have 2 budget hearings. This will be the second. We could have a third if there's a need for it. But at some point, of course, we need to have a final budget, and the public hearings of the budget will be in September. And they are already advertised on your trip notice, which you probably already have received in the mail. With that, Zach, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. I can also hear the prayer on. Hopefully that means audio will be too bad. Just make sure you guys hear me okay.
Yes.
Yes. So, with that, Zach?
All right. So I did, I know we recorded out kind of a few notes where Tuesday I kind of took my outline of the highlight, what we would, what I would touch on while we're there. The first was then kind of walk through. So I guess we have 2 options. Without having been out there and, the commission had a chance to review those as part of reviewing the budget, I can kind of walk through those in detail. I can get some of the highlights. I can just help any questions, areas like that, whatever. We want to read all obviously, not being there in person, but I know that, on a personal level, I don't think anybody wanted a piece of COVID, even though it is fortunately much milder this time than previously. So I'm open to walking through things a little bit detail like normal if I was there, or in a different capacity, but whatever would kind of help things run as smoothly as possible.
I think, Zach, if you can give us the overview, which starts off the notes that you've incorporated all the changes from the first meeting, the basic conditions of the budget, it's a balanced budget, no use of reserves, etc. That may be a good starting point.
Yeah, sure. I'll do kind of a high 30,000 foot view. So with everything here, this now is kind of a more complete and full document, as we normally have to get to this. Yeah, we do have the payroll schedule here. That was also new pieces we had not done initially. Aside from that, all of the notable changes or additions, adjustments, addition, for the hourly administrative employees, there was a $1 an hour adjustment that's also getting the COLA applied to it. So the column where you see contractual and other adjustments for individuals have a $2,184 amount that represents the $1 an hour for the year and 5% COLA being applied to that, just in case there were any questions as to what those numbers were. From a high-level general fund perspective, the mill is currently where it was at that flat 6.85 rate that's been for the last couple of years. Again, revenue projections were made, all of these state projections now are out. So for gas taxes and revenue sharing, I think was the only one last time, those are all based on what the state is projecting, and that's kind of where our best numbers to work off of. The hurricane and capital reserve on page 9, we kind of project out based off of the policy, what that reserve looks like. I did make a few updates here based off of the discussions, the first workshop, that we would set that target reserve level for the hurricane reserve at around 10% of the budget. So that would take that from a target there of about 350,000 to 300,000. So in this worksheet now you can see where we kind of project out to where if it is and when it goes over that minimum or target of 350, the assets would go to a capital reserve to have available for one-time capital needs of the city, again, in accordance with that policy that was adopted initially in 2019, and I know I've got on my radar to update that language with 10% to bring back at the September commission meeting. Let's see, the fire expense, which is based off of, I know that contract renewal is on the agenda for the 7 o'clock meeting, so the number in the budget reflects what's being proposed in that renewal. From a capital standpoint in general fund, we did an update there for the Kickletter project, $100,000 shown in expenditures. Half of that, there is a grant revenue in there provided for. The other $50,000 would be a city match. And then just in general, from a capital funds availability standpoint, in this budget, there's only $15,000 in kind of general, not specifically yet earmarked capital uses, so not a ton of access there for anything that could come up. And one thing that we talked about, I would encourage is, you get really a capital plan built out. Kind of the successful of that is going to be, with the department heads, administrative commission, everyone looking at, okay, what are the needs, what are the top priorities, commission input to kind of go through process, what are those priorities, what are the estimated costs, and then from there really kind of look at, okay, do we want to take any further steps to what any kind of funding plan might look like going forward there. In the other funds, not a whole lot of highlights or changes. The first, stormwater did change there relative to the investment projection. The smaller funds and water utility all pretty much consistent with what we had in the first draft there. So not a whole lot of highlights to change. I did have in my notes 2 things to make sure that we sort out, address any kind of open areas. I want to make sure we got properly reflected as we move, towards the public hearings and so forth. But those pretty much are the notable highlights, changes that I wanted to point out. And with that, I'll kick back to either you, leaders, in there, and entertain any questions or let you all discuss.
Thank you.
Any questions from commissioners or anything you wanted to bring up for future thoughts? I do agree with you, Zach, that a capital improvement plan is something that we should develop, and you know, we don't have to have it done by the end of this budget session, but it's something I would like the city to have. I went to a seminar at conference that was about grant writing, which is another thing we need to really look deeper into. But every grant apparently really keys in on that capital improvement program as part of what you need to have to be able to put in and properly fill out these grant proposals. And I firmly dislike grants. I despise them. But they're the way of the world now. And if we want to capture that money, it's a way for bureaucracies to kind of control the way money gets spent. And that's why I don't like it. I think the control should be here with the people. But it's the world we live in. They got the money in their coffers, and we need it. So I think we're going to have to look at more grant writing. The capital improvement program would be a good first step in getting us prepared for that. I'll probably be bringing up at some future commission meeting possibility of hiring a grant writing firm as opposed to hiring a staff person, say, for grant writing. That's one way to go, but with a firm you get a broader base of resources and you pay as you go. You don't have to throw somebody on salary and pay before anything starts coming in. You're paying out a lot. Anyway, that's future. For today's budget questions, that's all I have on my mind. Again, back over to y'all if you have anything, commissioners.
What is the Kid Glider project?
The dirt portion of Kick Glider that,
West Kid Glider?
yes.
Okay.
It's a CDBG grant, 50,000, we'll match it 50,000 to stabilize the base because it's been a mess.
Is it going to realign the roads where it's supposed to be, or just what's existing?
We will align it in accordance with the citizens' wishes because they've already expressed some wishes. So the whole idea is to stabilize it so it doesn't get the rust and everything from flowing. And it's not $100,000, believe it or not. It will only do half 1,000 feet. It's not a big deal, but it's a start.
But 1,000 feet in the worst area would be very helpful.
Oh, it is. I mean, we've had ambulances stuck out there, we have fire trucks stuck out there, garbage trucks frequently stuck out there. And they're not our vehicles, but it's an embarrassment.
Well, it's an embarrassment, and it could be, obviously,
It's a safety issue too.
Yeah.
Can the truck is stuck into?
We can get a lot of trucks in our inventory that way. But well, I don't have anything additional. How about from, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I have something on the payroll. I know Brandon doesn't care about this, but it bothers me that we have one department head making $5,000 more than the chief of police is making.
That's a legitimate question.
It is. I mean, Brandon will sit there and say, I don't need one of these, the fair should be fair.
One thing that I was going to bring up, and this is going to not pair well with what you just said, and it's something I just want to ask the question. We talked about the additional officer. We put the additional officer in here. One of the strongest arguments for putting an additional officer on was getting ready, perhaps, for the increase with the Army Endpoint project. I see that still being a couple of years away with the way things seem to go in government approvals and development progress. I think it might be a little bit early for that, but I'm not sure. I haven't had a chance to talk with you about this, and I apologize. But I'll just express what I'm thinking now. I don't expect a real answer.
I can give you an answer.
Well, I'll let you decide.
But
But that was my thinking. Maybe we could put that off another year, but you probably hear that every year. So that was my thinking. If we put it off another year, I think we'll still be safe as far as preparing for the new influx of citizenry. But I'm not sure how much pressure we're under, and that would be my main question. How much pressure the department is now, where the city hasn't changed much.
the pressure is going to come with hiring. It is not easy to hire a police officer. They're either underqualified, they're brand new, fresh out of the academy. They want to come to work, so they'll come to Lake Helen, they're not going to stay here long. They're going to get their feet wet, they're going to go to another department where they're going to be making a lot more money. The reason to bring on an officer this year was to get ahead of the curve. We probably will need 2 officers if that goes. I would rather hire 1 officer now. We still need another officer. We have 1 swing shifter who's working probably 50% of the time. So we're having covered 50% of the time, but with another officer, I would have 2 now. 100%, not 100% of the time. I would have 2 people on every day during our key hours, which is 2 o'clock to 2 o'clock. Those are our key call times. So right now we can get stressed if we have a bad traffic crash at 6 o'clock at night. You know, that officer has to stay over, this officer has to be here by a swing shifter, cuts out the overtime. And it also cuts out if the officer's unavailable for another call because he's working a traffic crash or another arrest. You know, every time we make an arrest, so gotta drive to the jail, gotta drive back, do the paperwork, the trip to the jail and back is an hour. So, and that was my reasoning behind it. So it would put us where I believe we need to be, but it would also get us ahead of the curve of the population increase to be on. Instead of trying to get 2 officers and then a crunch where now we need officers and we need 2 of them, that was the reason we wanted to go on.
Plus a full year of training.
Correct. Correct.
And I know we always kind of live right on the edge of needing that one where we have for quite a long time. So I want to make it, you know, how close to the edge we were. You're the professional. I'm not trying to say.
I know when I started in '98, we had 7 full-time, and now we have 6 full-time. So it's not, it wasn't out of the realm of Lake Helen to have 7 full-time officers. So that was another reason.
And I'm not against it. I just wanted to ask the question.
Sure.
And thank you for the answer. Good answer. That was the only other thing that I had a question about that I wanted to bring up. I back to your comment about I'm not sure how to characterize that, but that what you're saying with the chief of police making 5,000 less than the department head, another department head. I know we don't have much wiggle room in the budget, but I do agree that those things matter. Do you have a thought on that, Lee, or?
Time and position makes a big difference.
Yeah, that's true.
They both have about 20, one's 20, one's 25.
But not as department heads.
True.
One of them has it as department heads, the other one's just recent. So the one should be a little bit higher. And it's not that big of a difference.
It's
We're
not.
talking about $5,000 difference.
And it's really, there have recently been many times when I've been very happy with the personnel decisions that made by the commissioners and not the city manager. This is one of them. But this particular differentiation was set by the commission a month or 2 ago. And it's your call. Roger does point out that time and grade within the department position is meaningful. You really pay somebody for their talent and responsibilities. And the responsibilities are the same for both of them. Talents are equal in their own field for both of them. And it's not that much of a difference. To me, and the chief has not said anything to me, although I wouldn't have expected him to, that a $5,000 increase for the chief would not be unreasonable. But on the other hand, I don't see necessarily a burning need for it either.
Okay. That's a fair answer.
Yeah.
Well, and we also have this position of P&R director earmarked at $60,000. And I think the argument could be made that we could take from that, because on my research, that number seems inflated.
Mm-hmm.
So,
That was a wild guess.
yes, right.
I mean, it really
We were
was.
just trying to get, something on there for that. But my thoughts are, if we're to move forward, it does seem reasonable to take from there.
That would be an easy way to keep the budget balanced, and certainly if we were to hire somebody in that position, you can always balance the budget somewhere. That would be an easy way to do it right now. You're right. Well, any other thoughts on it? What do we need to do next? Just move it forward to the,
I have a thought on pay also is, I mean, the first year as a commissioner, I voted to waive the COLA for the commission, and all the other commissioners agreed with it. It was presented by one of the other commissioners. I just voted yes for it to be that way. Last year we got a COLA, and I think we could waive our COLA because then that money could go towards the new people. It leaves a buffer for the new people hiring. Because we don't know what the Parks and Recs director is going to negotiate for. I mean, it's only a little bit.
yeah, it's a couple
thousand.
thousand total. Yeah, I don't think we're having any trouble balancing the budget. That's a reasonable suggestion. Finding the balance is not difficult. We've got a little bit of wiggle room, and we're not talking about a major difference here. When is your annual review or whatever? Are we doing that now? Do we have an annual review for the fee? No. Okay. So it's now.
It's anytime.
Well, anytime is true.
Anytime and every time.
It should be a couple months before it was anniversary date, yeah.
Are you talking about the city administrator's review?
No.
Who's review?
Police chief. Well, so next we just need to move this forward to, okay, Mr. All right. Hang on, I'm sorry, hand. Sir?
Since I didn't do anything with his budget, I was looking at it because I wasn't here. I don't know if it's true or not here, but underneath the streets department for road materials and supplies, there's zero money. So we can't buy any kind of road base or anything. Am I wrong looking at it, or was it put in there?
I'm sure you're wrong, but I don't know what the right answer is.
There is a zero, I did see that $0 amount.
Also, the Parks and Rec fuel, zero amount for fuel. Some of our vehicles are paid off Parks and Rec, the fuel for the mowers in the parks and everything.
Zach, do you know what happened to the road materials and the fuel for public works? Did it get shipped to another area?
One.
Yeah, there are a few, we have not used some accounts that have budget, but I did some consolidation of just getting things into a smaller number of accounts based on where actual has been getting towed.
So you have the same amount for fuel and for road material that you had before, except they're now consolidated within other line items that are not necessarily identified that way.
Correct, yeah.
Can I get that number so I know where
Yeah.
it's at and everything? Because I mean, I still have to buy material, but where do I get it from and how much do I have?
So Zach, the question is could we get those numbers together for the Public Works Director so that he'll know what his budget is for those things?
For sure.
Yeah.
And I did have one more question. You had Parks and Rec director you had there. If you're going to create that position, are you going to create employees to do that and they're going to take care of the parks and stuff? Or, I mean, that's kind of a weird, that's what it would be if you made it a director.
Well,
I mean, it wouldn't be.
what the thought was that we would have a person in that position would be largely an events coordinator and a Parks and Rec coordinator. Remember we had to cancel the Parks and Rec committee because of sunshine problems. If we had a director, then we could revitalize that. So it would be mostly in dealing with that, not actually it would be nothing in maintenance of parks.
It's a startup position, and it's not gonna have.
And it wouldn't have anything to do
And
with
I just
that.
want to be clear so we knew
Sure.
if it was that, because we also have I know you guys know, but Mr. Hull's retiring as Tuesday, and I believe his wife is too. We have that position going to be open, we're going to advertise for that, but we're still in dire need of more employees for public works.
Yeah.
3 don't get it.
No, we don't.
I had 5, but they got 0 in there for anybody.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know if we,
But we do know we need those positions filled. That's
so if we
not-
come back later, you know, like, I'm just asking to, because you're doing the budget right now, so we'd be out of the budget by then if we were to hire later on for more positions.
Well, they will remain funded positions even though they're vacant.
But they're not in there right now.
Well,
Two of,
Well,
He means Sharon and Bob.
no, yeah, then, but also I was gonna add 2 more because we had 5 in public works before. We only have 3 right now.
they'll have to be requested separately, you're right.
Okay, that's what I mean, I do that.
But, yeah, they may not be reflected, but I think the commission is fully aware of
And I
it.
understand, because I wasn't here during the
Yeah.
time, and you've already done this, so I'm kind of a little late in the game, but I still want to bring it up because it is a viable thing, and we have a lot of equipment we're gonna have to get to, and I've spoken to Lee about this. We'll just have to come back to you after the budget and, you know, with the equipment needs.
Yeah.
Zach, what would that affect to add an extra person in public works?
What would the effect be to add a person to the board?
Yeah.
Take one of these numbers real quick.
So if we look at the all-in cost for a full-time, like after 21 hours, we're looking at, polish run, all the way over that total, about 64,000, all in the benefits for an FTE at that $21 an hour pay rate.
Can I interject something else? I know you have contracted services that you had down, 120,000 or something like that in there. I know you did that because you had repairs you were paying out, and we're now doing it in-house again. So I know you have like a $54,000 contract with US Water, am I correct for now? So,
That's utility though.
yeah, but I'm saying you could hire somebody in utility, what I'm trying to say is to find the money for another employee.
Yeah, but you still need the money for emergency repairs, that's basically emergency repairs, road repairs.
I don't think we need to take it from there.
Yeah.
We know we need the employees, and we need to fill out the department. We didn't, that's not a surprise. I don't think you're gonna meet any resistance in hiring.
I'm just asking questions.
No, it's a good question.
I'm new here, I'm just asking questions on this.
No, it's a very reasonable question, and
I
I'm
gotta
not,
bring them out sometime.
Yeah.
When it comes to it, we'll find the money because we got that capital
I've
reserve.
got about $4 million worth of equipment that I'm gonna need.
well, that we might have to talk a little bit more in detail about. But yeah, there's, I'm sure, needs.
Yes.
And I don't know that, like I said, it's a little late in the game, but I don't, for getting it into this.
I just wanted to bring it up so we had it in the game.
Exactly, and I think that's completely appropriate. So, appreciate it. I mean, you're right, this is the time. Good job. I saw a hand. I guess we've got a couple of hands. Before we go to the public, any more from around the table here? Commissioners and department heads and staff.
Hey, Mayor, one question.
Yes, Zach.
So there was conversation about the salary for the chief pulling from what we had in there for parks and rec. Was there a final consensus on that?
No, we haven't decided yet.
Okay, I just make sure if I need to change something, so I will need to add this for now. That's all I got.
You didn't miss it. We're still in discussion, and we'll let you know one way or the other by the end of the discussion. The first hand I saw was Mr. Preston, if you want to start, and then we'll.
Thank you. On page 10, Zach talked about the COLA and other adjustments. Can you explain that again? I didn't quite get that. He was talking about $1 something.
I think that's on this little one, that Lee wants to add $1.
Let me see if I can, what Zach has put in the budget is a 5% cost of living adjustment across the board for all employees.
Okay.
In addition to that, I wanted to add $1 per hour for our 4 administrative assistants, which are 2 here in the office, Sharon Hall, who is retiring, so it's kind of a moot point,
All right,
and Lynn McNeely at the police department.
okay. So is that what the 2184 is? The other adjustments, it says 20, there's 4
No.
employees.
But I'm not sure where you're going.
On page 10,
Oh, okay, I'm with you. Zach, the 2184 under adjustments for living needs, in the purple.
Yeah, so that's the plan that mentioned earlier, that's the dollar per hour with the 5% COLA being applied to that.
Okay.
Gonna do the $1 first and then apply the 5%.
We have,
okay, so,
we have, as we've been hiring in other areas, pressure's been up, you know, wages have been rising, and these people have not risen along with it. This is a way to kind of bring that back into scale a little bit better, is, I think, the primary reason for that dollar.
okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, there's 4 employees that are getting that, but just correct me if I'm wrong.
You're
There's
right.
a 10% increase for those 4 employees plus that COLA. Is that a math error? Because you look at what their 2023 hourly wage is and the proposed 2024, that's a 10% increase, not a 5%, plus they're getting a COLA.
No, the manager has to. They're getting a COLA of 5% plus they're getting $1 per hour. So it can't be 10%.
Well, okay, look at their annual 2023 wage. Multiply that by 1.1. And look at their 2024 hourly wage. They're showing a 10% increase in their wage for 2024, plus they're getting a COLA of 2184. That's what I see in black and white.
I'm looking at Sharon, top number, right?
Okay, yep.
Okay.
So
I see what you're saying. I see the issue.
there's a 10% increase in the wage.
44,000.
There's an exact 10% increase in the wage, plus there's a $2,184 COLA. So something's wrong there. It should be,
I don't, Zach, we're gonna have to review those numbers, for the 4 administrative assistants, unless you have a quick answer.
So from what I'm hearing is, what I'm hearing about like a 10% increase, so basically what there is the COLA, like let's just talk Sharon Hall, for instance, the COLA for her, or actually let's do, Debbie, just because Sharon's 75%. So Debbie, her COLA, the $1,912, that represents 5%. The contractual other adjustment, that fee, the dollar, which is 2080 plus 5%, the COLA also being applied to that, to come to annually 42. So from a percent standpoint, from here, 10%, relative to what those 4 individuals were making, that additional dollar is another a little bit, 5% and change, for each of them based on what their pay rates were. So each of those 4 individuals, when you factor in the COLA and the additional dollar, their increase is rate to between 10 and 11%.
I got you. No, I understand now. What we're saying is the dollar per hour seems like a small number, but it's actually 5% of their base. And
that's not what this budget says.
Pardon?
That's not what this budget says. The budget says they're gonna get a 10% increase plus the COLA money. It's right there. Take the column out for the COLA and give them the 10%.
That's not what I heard
Then
Zach
be
say.
flat.
Zach, they're not getting a 10% plus a COLA, are they?
That's what the budget shows.
Now, the 10% would be their revised rate of pay, 24 versus 23, which is inclusive of the COLA at 5%, and then the 2184 to get about 5%. So 5% plus 5%, a little over 10%.
Huh?
That didn't make sense.
Yeah, it does make sense.
You're wrong, sir.
No, it's not.
Well, before you say that, he's a CPA. So.
I understand that. But there's a 10% difference between that column and that column, and there's a COLA of $2,184. It's one or the other, not both.
We're not gonna solve it tonight, so.
Well, if you add, we're taking Debbie out, that's the example. If you add, from $18.38 in the fiscal '23, you add the COLA, add the other adjustment. Each of those is about 5%. That $1 an hour raise adds up to that.
But that's 10%, not 10% plus the COLA.
Right, no, it's not, no, the COLA is part of that, it's half of that.
I think Todd is saying it's 10% plus the COLA, right?
That's what it shows on here.
No,
I don't see it.
I don't see it either.
I see the 10%, but not the 10% plus the COLA.
Okay, so let's use Debbie House as an example. Is she going from $18.38 to $20.35?
Yes.
That's 10%,
I know, 5% of it is COLA,
right?
5% of it is the hourly,
$1.
the $1 an hour increase.
Right. I understand. So
it's
she's
not-
gonna get 20,
It turns
35
into
an hour.
almost a 10% increase.
Right, then why is she gonna get a $2,184 COLA payment?
That's part of that.
Part of it, it's not in addition to.
It's just the way it's got, that they've got it presented on there, it's making it hard to follow. You know, it would have been easier if they said, you know, this is the number, this is the dollar, this is the COLA, this is the budget. But it's, because they're shrinking it down to the dollar.
She's gonna get $20.35 an hour.
Right.
She's not gonna get a check for $2,184.
No.
Okay.
Have we done any salary studies before we go into this? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Good evening, Zach. You're speaking to Ranger James. I was had a question on page 15 on the police education. Is there any plans in the budget to train one of our officers in code enforcement and animal control?
There are, most of our code enforcement training is on, I'm looking for the page 15 real quick first, before I answer.
There's $0 on it. Like, we had an officer before in the past, that was pretty much trained in both those fields.
Officer Carino was trained when he was hired, is code enforcement, but we haven't trained anybody since then.
Do we have any plans to?
I can train them, yeah.
I'm not asking you to, I
Yeah,
just
I
got
don't have immediate plans now to send anybody to code enforcement school.
We just had a 3-hour session with the city attorney on procedures in presenting court cases. It's a small part of the whole code enforcement process.
Just general complaint from the community on code enforcement, instead of logging down an officer that's not trained in that field. I was just thought if the city has any plans in the future for that, and just allocated any budget for education.
Do we have a line item in the police budget for education?
We did. Most of my training is free. We do things through the local colleges, so all of our advanced training such as radar, our salary incentive classes, most of those don't cost money. They do have training sessions that private companies do. When I say private, they're usually in Las Vegas, New York, they're $800, plus hotel, and you can kind of get the same, we're not New York City. So, to put on the same level of that training. But the issue of the code enforcement and training is it's kind of like a police academy. An officer goes to a police academy. Just because they went to the police academy, they're nowhere near ready to be a law enforcement officer. They still have to go through training, field training, which we have in our department. We have 2 field trainers. So when we hire somebody new who has no experience, he goes through that field training process. Code enforcement can send an officer to code enforcement school, but he's still not, he's not going to have that working with a seasoned code enforcement officer. That's why I haven't sent them to school. Because they'll go to school, they'll learn the basics, but when it actually comes down to doing the job, I can't train them on code enforcement necessarily, or have anybody else in the department train them on code enforcement. So it would be the send multiple people to code enforcement school, or get somebody who's seasoned and doing it. So that's one of the big reasons they have to go to school.
So do we need to add something in the budget, because we're gonna need a code enforcement officer and a animal control? I mean, the one person could do both, but.
Animal control, we can do animal control. We're fine with animal
But you
control.
don't want to do the,
It's, no, I'm saying, no, we still do code enforcement. You've always done code enforcement. A law enforcement officer does not need to be certified to do code enforcement. If you were a civilian and you wanted to enforce code, then you would have to go through code enforcement school. And there's 4 levels of that, you know, it's about 160 hours. Last I checked, I don't know if that's changed. I've lost my point. So we can do code enforcement, and the majority of the code enforcement we can do, it's not a matter of training. You know, noise complaints, you know, our grass is high. Most of that stuff. There are some things that get more advanced, like EPA issues, which are rare. There are some things with permitting that can take extra time, and understand that there's laws that come into place that we have to make sure that we don't violate somebody's constitutional right before we actually take code enforcement action upon them. So laws change all the time. We have to make sure we research that and we give people time. So it's not a matter that we don't know what we're doing as far as code enforcement, but
that kind of gets us, does that kind of answer your question as well?
Thank you, I just wanted to know if any future plans and everything allocated in the budget.
Ms. Roberts?
Thank you.
I have a whole bunch of questions, so if I could just read them all off, and some of them are a little redundant because somebody already brought it up, but just go through them all, read this off to you, and then give the answers. Number 1, stormwater. As a citizen and a Lake Helen mobile villa resident, the villa is being charged $7,165 this year versus $3,800 last year. We have some stormwater issues as well as the other city areas, but we are told that this is private property. The city will not do any stormwater work in the villa. So why is the villa being charged? These fees are a pass-through on our rent. So I would like to know anything that can be offered on about that. Then on page 10 of the budget, payroll, I've done a little research, and the land is giving a 2% merit raise as warranted. Many of their jobs that are open are $15 an hour jobs. So they're going to up the starting salary, the dollar, like we're giving our 4 girls in the office for compliance, up to $16 an hour, plus the 2%, making a total of $16.30 in order to fill some of the slots that they haven't been able. And we're giving starting our people mostly at $20 an hour. Deltona is going to give a 3% COLA in October, and then possibly 2% in April. Orange City is a 3%. Oak Hill, when I called there, the girl that answered the phone said, I'm the only one here. The city administrator and the city clerk just quit. And Deltona had the same thing. And I had a question in regard to this $2,167, which makes it a 10% increase for those people that are making way over, they're making a good wage. I don't understand why they're giving this extra dollar incentive. And there's 2 people in the office, and I wonder who they are directly supervised by. Is the new, just like Jane said, is the new police officer going to be code enforcement officer? And when was the last time any officer took any further courses? The unfilled position of Parks and Recreation Director of $60,000, which we're now finding out is really the events coordinator. Why is this position exempt? Why is it separated from the Director of Public Works and Utility? Mr. Mullen came back at almost $20,000 more than when he left with less responsibility. As a former hourly employee with only 1 part-time person for help, I was told that I could not be an exempt employee because I did not have anyone reporting to me. What has changed? Do we go by HR rules, EEOC, or what? Okay. No capital expenditure summary, even though the money is being allocated. Again, nothing on the upgrade and AAA subdivision water project. That was supposed to be scheduled in 2022 budget. Again, this year, our financial department is farmed out and is increased to an annual of $71,500 part-time. So I'm suggesting that you go to the rollback rate, give the citizens a fair budget. You'll generate the same amount as last year. Let's be fair.
Okay. I made some notes, and I'll weigh in on some of them, and anything y'all want to throw in as well. Stormwater is a question that I don't really readily have an answer to, so I'll do.
The stormwater assessment applies to all the properties within the city. There would be some corrections, some allocations or deductions made to the woods because they have their own stormwater system, which they pay to maintain. Yes, the private property, the villas is private property. We cannot expend public funds on private property. It's a violation actually of the Constitution of Florida. So we cannot do any improvements within the villas. But once you leave the villas, you are on public roads. Those roads are all subject to the same stormwater requirements and everything else. So you're really paying for the maintenance of the roads. And the whole purpose of stormwater, I will tell you, is not, and everybody thinks it's to get rid of water, just to get rid of water. It's to remove the water from the road base, so your road base doesn't become squishy. Once it becomes squishy, and a good example is the curve on Michigan, you can see it starting to slough off over to Lake Harmon. That's going to have to be rebuilt, and that's a stormwater issue. So the whole idea of the stormwater is to keep the road base dry, and that would have an effect all over the city because then you drive all over the city and you take advantage of that.
And let me add to that. Yes, the villas are private property, but everybody's property is private property.
My point, exactly.
So we're paying
property.
everybody that's within the city limits, even though they have their own private property. The city's not doing anything on their property for those exact reasons. Everybody still pays into stormwater.
Right. Once they leave the property, they're on public roads.
Right.
And once they leave the village, they're on public roads. I didn't take that many notes, so I can't.
Okay, no, that's fine.
I guess I'm the only one that really studies the budget.
Well,
Because I always have a lot of questions.
no, and that's fine, and I appreciate that you're bringing the questions to us. That's what this workshop is for. On the payroll thing, where you mentioned that DeLand is getting 2%, Deltona 3%, our city 2%, or excuse me, yeah, our city. You also mentioned two cities where you called and they didn't have anybody to even answer the phone, and they were in a, sounded like a pretty bad situation.
Yeah, we delayed letting we let our city administrator go, and yet we kept him, because our budget.
Well,
But these people didn't have any problem with it.
well, let me go two places just that are kind of supervisory in nature, not exactly line by line in nature. If you look at DeLand, they have 500 employees. It's a very different thing for a city with 500 employees to hire people. When you're working in a small city, you pay a premium. I mean, you would think people would come here and work for less, but that's not really the case. It's harder work to work in a small city than it is to work in a big city. You're required to wear more hats. You get a lot more thrown at you day by day at a personal level almost. A small city is not, we don't pay less because we're small. We actually pay more because we're small. So I think that it's not unreasonable for us to be paying these premiums a little bit. I don't want to find us, I know DeLand has, I think, I think he said something like 30 some odd openings in the city overall out of 500. We've got a couple of openings here, but we're doing, we're hopefully getting there, but we can't pay less and expect to get people. We have to pay a little bit more to get people. We need to fill the positions. I think we addressed code enforcement that you brought up. We're doing code enforcement. We may not have a specific officer designated to take additional training, but the police force is doing code enforcement. We can talk about that in the future, but as far as the budget goes, of course, those are basically free. I don't think it's a budget item per se. This is
Enforcement,
yeah.
are not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, so this is, so I don't think we're gonna go any farther. I understand that what I'm hearing kind of from both of y'all is that there's an interest in increasing our code enforcement, but I don't think that's gonna change in this budget. That's my answer to that question. Parks and Rec, as far as why it would be an exempt employee, I'm not sure that it would be. We would have to look at that. And you're right, that's a reasonable question as to whether or not that would be a salary, exempted. It's some positions are exempt because of qualifications as opposed to supervisory. But I don't know the exact answer to that. We'll have to find out before we put that person on, because we got to do it the right way.
You have to follow the Fair Labor Standards Act.
Exactly.
And, we don't have any discretion, quite frankly.
No, there's no discretion at all.
But there's also wage an hour, I'm sorry, there's also wage an hour that you.
And we'll do it the right way, is all I'm saying, is that if we have it, if it's not reflected that way in the budget per se, as far as just kind of an open item, a budget is a forecast for to some extent, a forecast for our hopes and dreams. And this is kind of a hopes and dreams line item. And if we do it, that's when the rubber meets the road, and that's when we'll get those I's dotted and T's crossed. As far as carving out financial, I believe that's working pretty well. I like the response we get. I like the numbers we have. I think it's working well. I think we have a difference of opinion there, and I'm not sure how to make anybody feel better about that. But I think we're doing well. I think we have good resources in Zach and his firm. So I'm satisfied with that right now. I understand we might just see that differently.
I agree with you.
And those are all the notes I took.
What about the rollback rate? You can address that.
No, I didn't. You're right. I didn't put a note either. That's why I didn't. Basically, you're saying we could reduce the budget, reduce the tax,
You would,
and still come up with a fair budget.
you could reduce the millage rate and still generate with the rollback rate and still generate the amount of taxes that you took in last year.
Yeah.
Except all of our costs go up too, just like yours go up.
Not seven, I don't think they go up 75% like the stormwater's going up.
Well, that's a different subject. That's because of capital.
It's all part of the budget. I mean, let's face
That's
it.
because of capital improvements that we've not done for years and years and years and need to do. And we need to start with that, and that's an entirely separate subject.
Well,
Property tax, and this goes to the general fund for all general expenses.
and where we went, and the way we got to that, just to recap a little bit, we have, if Commissioner Basso was here, he would weigh in on this quickly, but we have ignored stormwater for a long time. We've really done virtually nothing. We have a few stormwater things around town, but we've really never had an active stormwater utility or a plan forward. So a couple of years ago, or a year ago, we put together a stormwater master plan. We got the engineer to really look at the needs of the city to put all that together and create I'm blanking on the word here, but which ones are most important, which are most critical, which are
Prioritize.
Prioritize, yes, thank you. A prioritized list of the things that the city needs. We created that stormwater master plan and adopted it, and now we're putting together you know, if we're gonna have a plan, we need to have money for it. So we put together the assessment with Raptellus to find a good way of funding it, a fair way to spread that cost among the citizens. And we really need to, I think Commissioner Basso has said this a couple of times, we've seen the need over this last year of stormwater and you know, another, God forbid, another 100-year flood or 500-year flood, whatever this last hurricane season brought us. If we have, I mean, you can see right now, Lake Helen Lake is still nice and full. And we're in hurricane season again. We could end up even deeper than we were last time, pretty quickly. So we can't, I don't feel we can ignore stormwater. The commission has voted to move forward with plans to modernize or at least bring up to speed our stormwater system through the city. So that's, yes, it's a different line item, it's a different process than the millage rate, but it's still very important to the city. Does that answer that question?
No.
No? Okay.
I'd like to say something.
Right.
I wasn't going to talk about stormwater because that's Hinsdale, but I think the issue is, if I'm correct in what I'm hearing, let's say in Lakeview, the road itself floods, so then the stormwater taxes will kick in to remove that rising water to protect the roads. Is that correct?
Actually, stormwater master plan identified, I think, like 57 different potential pondings of water within the city.
Okay, so it's not just the roads.
And then it forecast about, I want to say $2.5 million worth of projects that would relieve those pondings by giving them an exiting.
Because then they'll also pipe out some of the ponds into other ponds because
Yes.
they're overflowing. I'm pretty savvy on flooding here, so. So it's not just the road.
Keep the road base dry.
Okay, but I just want to make it clear so everybody understands it's not just the roads. The problem with the villas is that we're having to pay all of this money, and we have roads out there too. Albeit private roads, I guess. It makes no difference because we're paying taxes. And out of the kindness of all of our hearts in the villas, we're helping Lake Helen with their stormwater issues.
But
And then we as private citizens out there, if we have rising water like what Ann had, for 3 weeks she had to get a sump pump and pump water off the street by pipe to run the water, you know where the pond is, to redirect the water. We're doing that out of our pockets, but yet we're paying taxes and we're getting those services. So somehow, there needs to be some kind of an adjustment. We want to help Lake Helen out, but we've got senior citizens who can't eat out there.
But the situation is the same across the board. Roger, did you want to weigh in? Go ahead.
You gotta take into account that the villas is a private corporation. So they get their tax bill that has all the assessments on there except garbage because they contract with their own garbage pickup. They divided that up and then they got renters that are renting the property there. For them to pay their bills, they decided to divide their taxes and their fees up between all the people in there. So your issue isn't really with the city, although we are raising the fees and charging, but it would be no difference than us charging Nautilus, or if somebody put some big box store like Publix or something in there, we'd be charging them the same assessment fees as a corporation. They pay the corporate part of it. So that's one of the problems that a lot of people aren't looking into when they look at a corporation like the villas because of the way it's being delegated and around and everything. But that's something that the association, the Villas Association, have to bring up with the company to find out how to do it.
And I'll give you one more example. In my driveway, I have a grate that pulls water off my drive, takes it a little bit farther away from the house, and releases it back into the yard. It's my own little mini stormwater system in my private property. City didn't pay for that, I paid for it, now I'm getting ready to have to fix it because the pipe has failed over the years, and the water doesn't leave my house.
It's got roots in it. I got-
Yeah, that kind of thing. So that's a little mini stormwater system within my private property. I still have to pay a stormwater assessment to make the roads of the city in general workable. The whole system of the city is a part of everybody's responsibility who lives in the city. Y'all's is a bigger part because you have a much bigger chunk of private property. So yes, you pay into maintaining your own stormwater systems within your private property, but you also pay towards the city.
Okay, well, I have another question then. Years ago, there used to be, when you filled out a building permit for a new residence, there was a stormwater application that you had to show how you would retain the first inch of rainfall on your property without flooding it off onto the next guy. Is that being maintained? Are they doing that?
That was removed by state law that now requires 8% of a certain amount of the stormwater. I think it's like an average 1 inch an hour rain. You must maintain 80% of it on your property. We have issues with a lot of contractors that taper their ground and everything so the water goes off the property and they're not putting in the proper yard dips or swales to hold 80% on their property. That's an issue for our building department that goes out and does the final checks. It's supposed to be checking all those things and making sure all that's being done. But a lot of it was taken over to state law, removed some of that from us being able to require the show because it's now part of the state
When did that
law.
all take place?
I'd have to look at the statute of limitations.
Well, looking at these taxes, I mean, we also pay into Lake Commons Waste Management. And you guys get 2 pickups a week.
No,
Um,
if you look at the Villas tax bill, they are not assessed from the city for garbage pickup.
No,
Oh, they're not, I thought we
No.
were.
no, that's right here, it is, that's right here.
That is straight from the Villas. They chose that.
Yeah, we went private.
Yeah.
Okay, but I thought we were paying our, I appreciate that, thank you for correcting me. Because I'm like, well, y'all need to go one time a week for pickup.
We get the same issue, we get the same arguments with the Woods, we get the same arguments with Ivy Hawn.
It was just, it's so frustrating when we see these taxes that are coming up and then it gets passed on to us. Well, obviously it's gonna have to, Levy and Kent cannot carry that burden. So they're gonna have to pass it on to
As
us.
soon as we're able to get caught up on all the stuff that's been put off and put off and put off to lower the taxes, then we can start seeing the taxes leveling out. And hopefully by that time, with all the improvements, we'll get some businesses in here.
We'll all be dead.
Me too.
Well, we're paying like one.
Death and taxes, Roger, remember that.
Yeah, here
You gotta go there.
it's the first birth effect that gets taken care of when you're born.
We can understand the question on the payroll issue. I mean, who made the decision that 5% COLA was like the way to go? I mean, I know it was brought up in the first meeting. I don't know there was a vote taken on
No,
it.
there's no
So
final
there's,
vote
yeah,
on any of
5%.
these things yet.
Yeah, we're working up to the vote. We have not taken that vote yet. We included it, we had a discussion about it. The 5% was brought up, I guess, by staff, maybe by some of the commissioners.
They were basing it on the cost of living that was going at the time that the cost of living had dropped since then.
And it's something that Zach and I, at the beginning of the budgetary process, discussed. He has a much broader perspective since he works virtually in the metropolitan area, as to what other cities and counties are doing, and the private sector too, for that matter. But 5% is a number we have just arbitrarily put in. It's subject to approval to the commission. And it really, it's up to the commission. It will reflect our ability to attract good employees, but it's not to say that 4% wouldn't attract this as well. It's a judgment call if we're an option.
Why do you have to give a COLA at all
You don't have to.
and give merit raises to those who take on?
Have to is a relative thing. In some ways, you do have, I mean, you have to give raises, or before long, you won't have any employees. So, you know, you don't have to this time, but you have to remain competitive.
Well,
And
yeah, obviously, but I think we're more than.
We're more than competitive.
Lots.
that's a judgment call, and that's what we're trying to work out. And you're welcome to say that. I mean, that's part of this process, is expressing those ideas. Ms. Carrasco, Nancy, I told Kelly she could be next until the afternoon.
So looking at this budget, there's a lot of wants and there's a lot of needs. I don't see the need for $83,715 as a proposed Parks and Recreation Director. Right now, we have organizations within our community that are providing events for us. We also have an events coordinator who is making, you know, a very minimal amount for those events. Are we putting this need for a position that is a permanent position, that is a position that is a staff member with health insurance, life, dental, retirement, above all the others of the needs of stormwater, the needs of our infrastructure? I think we should be appreciative of the help that we have from these organizations that have taken it upon themselves to help us with our events. And I think right there we could save quite a chunk of money. I don't think that this is a necessary need at this point right now. I mean, this $60,000 annually, breaking it all down, maybe I'm a fool, but I just don't see that we need that right now. I think we need to prioritize. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Ware, go ahead.
I'd just like to suggest for consideration, definitely lowering the COLA to something reasonable, more in line with the research that's been done. And I believe, and I have said this before, I have talked with other people, city administrators in other cities, and I do believe, and I believe our workers are worth, you know, good money. I do believe that. I believe that we are 25% higher than many municipalities, every municipality in this county, when we're starting our public works. We should be drawing in really great applicants, and we're not. We're not. So with that, I would like everybody that is an exempt on here to not receive a raise. And not because I don't think they're worthy people, but I think some of them have exceeded what is out there being paid. And without, you know, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, and I don't want to be picking on anybody, but there's a specific, the deputy city clerk, anywhere else in any other city, makes less than $52,000 a year. That is top paid, experienced deputy city clerk. And we are very much exceeding that, almost in a double figure. We have to rein some of this in, otherwise why do we keep taxing to pay for things and we're just giving our money away? So that's my thought on it.
Okay, I'll weigh in on a couple of things. One, first of all, back to what Kelly was saying, that we should just be appreciative of the people that we have that are working events and the organizations. I think we all are very appreciative of the work that is going on currently in the city. It's not a matter of not appreciating what is good within the city. It's a matter of wanting to take a different approach and maximize, perhaps, what we can bring into the city by bringing people in with a more robust events schedule and more robust events in general. We can perhaps boost the city as a whole, make a big difference there. That's the idea behind a good events coordinator. Rolling in Parks and Rec with that has always been part of the conversation. Somebody said that was a surprise. No surprise, it's always been part of the conversation that those two might be a good blend or something, a way to maximize that potential. Let me finish my answer, and then I'll go on again. Lowering COLA is certainly an option, but it's a commission decision ultimately. I mean, we're here, and that's what we're doing in the meeting right now, is hearing the public's input and then deciding if we want to continue with where we started this conversation. Lastly, Nancy, you mentioned that our public works is 25% above other cities or something along those lines. Not trying to misquote you if I got that not quite right. But we still have open positions in public works as well. And we're trying to get public works back up to speed. We had a rough patch there.
I'm not talking, don't misconstrue what I'm saying. I believe if it were up to me, I'd give them $40 an hour starting, because it is hot as Hades out there and they work hard. That isn't what I'm saying. I'm looking, even if you were to go by this proposal and you go straight down FY 24 hourly, there is not but one person in there making less than $20 an hour. And, you know, I think somebody talked about merit, pay with merit. And I don't want to call anybody out, and I'm sorry. But, you know, in our small public works department, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, I'm willing to learn with you. Mr. White's has withstood a hell of a lot since he's been here. He would be somebody I would say with merit. I mean, he shows up on time, he's not leaving, he doesn't have the entanglements that other employees have had. We don't have anything that exemplifies merit-based pay. We just throw it all at them. You know, we get $5, we're gonna throw them 10. And at some point, we have to have, you know, we talk about we're a business. We are a business, and you guys are misspending our money, and it's wrong.
Well, I'll address that and then we'll probably move on. But I don't think we're misspending the money. I mean, that's what we're doing right here in public is appropriating all of this. As I said before, small cities demand more of their employees, not less. So the fact that we might pay more, I don't think is out of line. Mr. Mullins only been back for a little bit now, as far as working in those merit things and whatnot. That's going to take time for him to massage his department and get things where he wants them. We've got to give him that time to do that. I think it's...
Do we pay double? Do we pay somebody double?
I don't want to go back and forth and have an argument.
I'm just trying to make the point. I'm just trying to make the point.
And I think I gave you the opportunity to make the point. I'm not trying to... Anyway, that's what we're trying to do. Ms. Kraska, one last bite of the apple here.
Thank you. As the former event coordinator, I was hired, and what was expected of me was to bring in the crowd, and that's what I did. I brought in the crowd. I paid for the event the event paid for itself. But what didn't happen was the event paying for the event itself and the pay, and I was at 20. Not that I received $20,000 from the city, but that was the annual rate. The city came back and said they don't want everybody from outside coming in. That wasn't a need of our city. They wanted to keep it small. They wanted these events to be for the citizens, not for everybody. So listening into that, unless things have changed, I think we need to look at, is that what the citizens want? Do they want to bring in these large events, have staff do it? Because the events, as they get larger, even an event for a spring festival with Easter egg hunt, that requires quite a lot more than just somebody organizing it. That involves public works, that involves police department, and that also involves volunteers, and if you don't have the volunteers, you have to look at daily pay. Also involves somebody to clean up, porta potties, you know, so these are things that also go into factor. So the larger the event, if it's not able to pay for itself, it definitely won't be able to pay for its pay.
Right. And I understand what you're saying, and you're right. I'm sure citizens did express that they'd rather things be small and intimate, like our small little town. And that is one point of view. We've had other citizens and commissioners express that we've got these nice, big, wonderful parks. Let's bring people in and once you have good foot traffic in a city and sustain that over time, it's good for the business community as a whole. So there's kind of two competing ends of that spectrum all the time, and there always will be.
I did fill the parks, and I did do all that, and I'm just letting you know that that's,
it's a real point of view, and I do know that.
It's the perspective of having, where the citizens say, oh, we don't want that. We want to be able to leave our house and go over to the event and enjoy it, not having to not find parking and struggle through there or pay for something at a more expensive, you know,
I understand.
price.
And when we get down to whether or not we hire somebody, this conversation will happen again. Mr. Preston, and then back.
Thank you. I just have one other thing to ask. You know, I talked to you last month in the meeting about potentially establishing a capital maintenance reserve for the water tower. Not only is that not in here, but I see that there's 0 contributions budgeted to any reserves this year. Is that really prudent? I think at $4.8 million, you could throw some money into one of the capital reserve funds, you know. Maybe if you guys could focus on that.
I think it says it in here.
We are putting money in the capital reserve. That's that extra 20,000 that Zach was talking about at the beginning.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm looking at page 3, it says contributions reserves.
You still with us, Zach? Tom Preston has asked, are we putting money into a capital reserve? And I think that's your discussion that you said originally. We're allocating on page 9. Am I correct? Extra 20,000. Pardon?
Yeah, page 9 shows first the hurricane reserve and kind of the overflow going to the capital reserve for that resolution.
Right. So there is a $20,000 capital reserve addition going in there.
That's good. That's 0.05% budget, so it's something, 0.005%. But it doesn't say it on page 3, it says nothing for insurance contributions, that's why I brought it up, so that's incorrect.
And one last question, and then we're kind of need to wrap it up. I'm sorry, we've got some more. But, Lynn, you've had a couple of bites of the apple. Mr. Perry?
Yeah, Rob Perry. I do want to agree with the majority in this room that I've heard talk that the cost of living is way too high. I work for a big utility. We never got a 5% raise. That's just, and looking at these other small communities around our cities, you know, we got to get more in line with the wages that, you know, I don't agree with you. You have to go higher to get, you know, more people. I also got a question on the water meter installation of $20,000. I mean, are we talking about the broken meters? I heard, you know, for years now we've got 300 broken meters. People are only paying the minimum of $75. Where do we stand on that? Do we have enough money to get all the meters replaced that are broken?
Yes.
So we can start getting, when are we going to start this project, Lee?
As soon as the state funds the program. We've applied for the state revolving fund money. They've approved our application. Now they actually are submitting an application for the funding, and that's in Tallahassee right now. And it's for $850,000. It will supply all the meters, all the installation. We won't have to pay anything for that. Well, we will eventually. We have to pay back the loan. It's a whole new reading system. Instead of the manual reads we do now by driving up and down the streets, which is not really the manual reads, it's It's now old technology. At one time, it was state of the art. But it'll be, actually, the meters will be read every 24 hours. And with that, problem we have now is some people, they have leaks in their system, don't realize it for 3 months because we don't have the readings. And the county has a system like this. They actually call the citizens every Monday morning and read out in the system. It says, you've got an excessive use of water. They call them up and say, you've got an excessive use of water. Is there something going on? Sometimes it's filled with swimming pools, sometimes, they forgot about the hose on, sometimes they got a leak. It's a tremendous opportunity to be able to give the citizens a leg up. But all of that money is going to be funded by the state, and then 41% of the money we borrow is going to be forgiven. So
how much will our monthly payments be after that, our portion?
The payments, I don't recall the number exactly, but it fits within our existing rate schedule. No need to raise our rates.
The reason for that is that we had a large SRF loan before when we put in some of the wells, and we paid that off, so there's a reduction in what we're paying right now. Just in the past year, we paid that off. So we have that window of opportunity to spend some more on the production side, or excuse me, the distribution side of things. So our water distribution now is becoming our priority, whereas the wells were for a while, and we paid that off. Now we're moving on to distribution, which, as we all remember, over the last 2 years, a lot of talk in this commission has been about, problems in the water distribution system. Well, that's where we're going now.
I personally like to see us reduce our water bill and just fix the broken meters.
Well, here we're
instead
up
of
to
taking on
700.
an extra loan that you're saying.
Is that true?
I haven't
700. 700 broken meters now.
But I will tell you without stepping on any feet here. I've been working, when I got back there, the meters we have there, because they are warranted for 10 years for free. I have not gone any too far in because Ferguson quit being with Mueller. We've got another company doing it. I did reach out to them because we have a bunch of replacement meters that are brand new. And we have some different tops they sent out. It's all new to me, I'm working on it, but we are beginning to put some of the meters back in. We have some new ones. We're putting them back in as we find them. I don't think I'm going to get all of them. I don't know where I stand with Mueller. I don't know where any of that is right now, but I'm working towards putting in what we have, sending them back, because they still have to fulfill their warranty with us, no matter what. Am I correctly?
Yes.
We have a 10-year warranty, so it takes time for us to put them in because we are definitely short-staffed. So I'm out there putting them in as we go, but I did find them, and then I found these meter tops, and I contacted Ferguson, and they told me that we no longer work with Mueller, but I gave me meteorology, whoever it is that does. I reached out to them. They're going to come speak to me because these new meter tops, from what I understand, all you do is go out, pop the old ones off, the new ones go on. Then you put a wire in the transmitter, which we have already. The thing about the new ones they brought out, they look just like an old meter. They have a leak detector. They look just like your old meter, no digital. They just transmit. So you can walk out there, you can look at the numbers, you can watch the dial move and everything. So I haven't delved too far into it yet because I just got back and I've been working with the other side, but I have been trying to address it because we do need to get something out there and get revenue back. So I am working on it right now on very, very low-key things I can find out. But we do have some. And we can virtually replace all the meters for free until we get the new system in. I agree with getting the new system in some ways, yes. It's technology. We went from reading them when I came here 96 by hand, with everybody, all hands on deck to read them, to trying to touch read. That didn't get that far, and they brought out the radio read. It works great. You can read the whole town in 3.5 hours with the truck, if it's all working properly there. They had a problem with the 15 to 16 meters. The water leaked into them, they wouldn't transpond. So we are working on it. But I'm going to do my due diligence to get us new meters for free, replace them, because we don't know, as Lee said, you guys have been waiting on meters too, right? Lee, you've been waiting on water meters too from the distributor too. It's going to take a while for you, correct?
Oh, well, it did when they first told us that. We're getting close to the time when they would be.
Because we had a problem during COVID, getting meters ourselves, even replacement meters because of all that.
The particular meter that went bad nationally. It wasn't
Yeah,
just
yeah, it
us.
wasn't just us, it was everywhere.
And, I mean, Collier County is replacing 10,000 at a time. And obviously, somebody's got to produce 10,000 more meters to replace those every time. So it's been a national problem. And as Rick said, we're going to a whole new technology that's far superior. But it's in the process.
And again, there's inherent problems with every water meter you buy. If anybody tells you that they're the best on the market, they are wrong. It's like buying a new car. It's the best one out there. It'll never have a problem.
Yeah.
So iPearls, I believe are what you're going to put in. iPearls, is that, am I correct on that, Lee?
What?
The iPearls from Census?
I don't know the name of it.
I don't know for sure, but if they are, well, when they came out, South Daytona or Daytona had 100,000 of them go bad and they got sued by the company. So if you're going to get problems with every one of them you put in, they're going to have inherent problems. That's why you upgrade and keep going with technology.
All right, and thank you for bringing us up to speed on all of that. I do appreciate it. I have a couple more questions. We're almost out of time with the meeting, but I want to get the people that haven't spoken yet. Mr. Burton?
Yeah, I just wanted to go back in time when our employees were pretty loyal, and because they stayed here, whatever their pay scale was when they started, their job always kept increasing because there was no more replacements. And after a while, we were in a situation where when it came time to replace an employee at the salary that the person was working at, the job description looked like this. When they got hired, the job description was this. So that slow creep in job kept increasing the amount of work, but it did not increase the pay. And I think at one point in time, we hadn't given employees a raise in something like 4 years. So that kind of put us off the scale. Cameron mentioned the grant workshops, because I went to a couple of them here while I was on the commission. And an interesting thing came up in 2006. I think Charlie Chris was the AG at the time. A municipality down in Miami Gardens requested guidance on whether or not that the city could create a nonprofit organization, a 501c. And according to Rick Scott at the time, it said, accordingly, absent any express statutory or constitutional prohibition to the contrary, it is my opinion that a municipality may create a nonprofit corporation to accept donations and grants to be used for furtherance of municipal purposes. And this was signed by Charlie Chris. The other part that I have, I'm on the board of directors of the Boys and Girls Club, and we had a program called Grant Finders. And Grant Finders presented us an opportunity that if you give us $10,000, that we will show you how you can make grants work for you. We turned the program down. They did come back with another option, said, well, if we let you have this program for $8,000, if you don't get your money back within 90 days, we will return your $8,000. We accepted the program for the $8,000, and I just called the person who runs the program, just text her and find out what the exact amount is. So far, that grant finder program, has given us over $380,000. It cost us $8,000. So you got two situations where they were using municipalities, set up a 501 grant, and that 501 can take donations. It could take up some of this slack of what we wouldn't necessarily have to pass on to the taxpayers. And something like this grant finder program, what it basically does is it just says that as a foundation, you're able to go tax-free because you're able to take your money and a certain percentage of that money has to go back into a 501c. You have 3 years to which you take a specific amount of that money that you were allowed to go tax-free and turn it into a nonprofit. That listing is a federal listing. So what we would do, we would go down the list of nonprofits, and if those nonprofits have not given money to if those foundations have not given money to a grant foundation, 501, we would contact them, and then if the grants were available, they would put us in line for it. So there's a lot of different ways of looking at it. Like, I remember when we first were on the commission, that was the first thing that I remember we were talking about. We don't like grants, because grants always come with it.
I don't like them, but they are.
They always came with, and I think what schooled us on the grants, what schooled me on the grants, was what we did with the Great Cross Cafe.
I'll give you an example of what I heard there at conference this time. A small city, I'm not sure the exact name of the city, but they have 2,200 residents, so a little bit smaller than us. And last year they got $30 million in grant money. Now they've been aggressively pursuing grants for a while and they've gotten real good at it, but I think maybe we need to get in that game.
It just pays to look at. I mean, look at the different options that we can save as taxpayers' money. That's all I'm hearing here today. We need to save taxpayers' money.
Yeah.
If there's money on the table that's available, because again, when I was on the commission, one of the things that I was more or less pushing for or brought up was that when interest rates were 1%, 0%, why didn't we take some of that money?
Yeah.
Why did we get some of that money to be able to put into the program? I mean, we're going to pay it back in taxes anyway. Then why not pay it back and have the resources being utilized for the city purposes? That's all I got to say.
Vernon, wasn't Jason Lawrence, our previous finance guy, wasn't he our grant writer for the city of Lake Helen?
Whether he was or not, this program is a national program that goes and finds grants throughout the entire United States. So a grant writer could be very, and that's a good point. I just want to finish. There's a good point there is that when we first got the program, we didn't have a grant writer for Boys and Girls Club. And the person that was assigned to it, when she left, she took an exit, we had an exit conference with her, and she pointed out to us that I was put into a position with a program that I did not have the facility to be able to utilize. So what we were able to do then with that, we put somebody in there, a grant writer, and gave them the tools to do what they were able to do. We had somebody that had a car, we had a Mercedes, and they didn't know how to drive a car. So now we got to know how.
We need to move on.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Eckert, you've got one last comment, and we need to adjourn.
Yeah, just on with the grant things, because the League of Cities has, for populations under 10,000, they will do a grant research for you for no cost. You just tell them what project you want to do, and they will get you a list of grants that are available for that project. If you want them to do the grant writing, they charge a reduced fee to the smaller cities. Then they will write the grant for you. So we've got.
There's resources out there. That's all I was saying is we need to start getting in that.
We just need to do it.
We need to adjourn. We got 20 minutes till our 7 o'clock meeting over at Ivy Hawn. So
Zach still needs a question of what you're going to do with the salary for the parks director. No, remember we're talking about changing the salaries of the.
oh, that's right. Yeah, okay, commission. It's a workshop, so we can't decide. We can change, we can direct. Set the commission, what do you want to do? Do you want to change the police chief's salary and adjust from the park direct potential? Do you want to do that?
I think everything's fine the way it is, because the parks one's only speculative, we don't know what the guys are doing. It might.
Even if all of us want that car, we haven't really discussed that, so.
Yeah, that's the
That's the question.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Give it to Brian. Or whatever.
Well, that's our 3 meetings, you're out of meetings.
well, and we're not taking a vote because this is a workshop. We're just expressing our opinion. And even that is, I mean, that's almost the same thing. Discussion, and staff takes what we say and brings back a amended budget. So have we been vague enough for you?
You have, yeah, exactly, very big.
And
So Zach, you and I have talked about that. Okay.
meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Zach. Thank you, Zach.